Britain's Prime Minister has ordered his cabinet to aim to cut over 90,000 civil service jobs. In an interview with the Daily Mail, Boris Johnson said the government's workforce should reduce as part of the response to the current cost of living crisis. Ministers have reportedly been given a month to come up with plans to drastically shrink the civil service in their own departments. Cabinet Office Minister Jacob Rees-Mogg, who is in charge of government efficiency, says that the move could save £3.7 billion a year. He says the government's trying to get back to pre-Brexit and pre-pandemic levels of staffing. But the FDA Civil Servants Union has described this as an ill-thought-out plan. The union is warning that it could affect services. Let's go back to our top story now and those plans announced by the UK government to cut civil servants. I'm joined now by Greg Swenson, who can give us some insight on this. Greg, what do you make of that plan?
Well, I think it was expected and probably long overdue, Ollie. It's a great question. But, look, the government spending in the United Kingdom has gone up dramatically, since the beginning of the COVID crisis. So I think it's a necessary belt tightening for the UK government, and again, probably long overdue, given that the worst of the pandemic has been over for a while. And also, Ollie, you're looking at a recession coming, and so I think the government's smart to start early or to address the economic issues. We've already had a cost of living crisis here in the UK. And recession is looming. There was only 0.8% growth in the first quarter. Expectations were higher at 1%, and basically down 0.1% in March when the expectation was flat. So the government, I think, is wise to look ahead and try to fight not only inflation but also recession by keeping more pounds in the private economy.
And is this also partly, Greg, about trying to rebalance private versus public sector? We keep hearing in the private sector that employers are finding it hard to find candidates to fill roles. Can we expect that some of these people might leave the public sector and head towards the private?
Absolutely, Ollie, and I hope that's the case because the private sector is much more productive. They're a more productive spender of capital, and they're also more productive employees. So, look, the government spending went from 39% in 2020 to 52% of GDP. That's a pickup of 13 percentage points, whereas the rest of the EU average, for example, was a pickup of 7 percentage points. And you saw ranges of like maybe, anywhere from 2 or 3 to 10, but the UK is clearly the highest at that jump from 39 to 52. So, they definitely overspent during the crisis, and I think they have to tighten their belts now. But as you pointed out, Ollie, getting capital and labor back into the private sector is much more productive. It'll end up, you'll see higher wages, you'll see less inflation. So this is a good sign for the UK economy.
And Greg, finally, what about that claim from the unions that if you cut a fifth of the staffing levels in the civil service, that services are going to suffer as a result?
Of course the unions will say that. And, that there is a lot of efficiencies that can be added to the government sector and basically they can just stop hiring and take advantage of the retirements. I think there's 38,000 retirements every year from the civil service. So they don't necessarily have to fire people. They could reach that 90,000 target in less than 3 years just with retirement. So, or people quitting and going to the private sector, as you pointed out. So, of course, the labor unions are going to say that. That's why they support labor the same way that the labor unions support, especially the private sector labor unions, support the Democrats in the U.S. So this isn't a surprise. So that was just to be expected, yes.
Greg, thank you. That's Greg Swenson joining me live from London.
Thank you.